Pastor, invocation by Pastor Henry Gutierrez, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Mayor, you do have a quorum.
We know.
That's why you the clerk.
Let us all stand. Let us pray. Dear gracious God, we thank you for the atmosphere. We thank you for the presence of the Holy Spirit. We thank you for wisdom and knowledge that you bestowed upon us. We thank you for our mayor and our council, oh God. We ask you to bless this session, oh God. Make it greater than the ones before and a foundation for that which is to come. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, the first item on today's agenda includes the meeting minutes. This is the consent agenda, where all items are voted on with one motion, and they're not discussed separately. And if there's interest to discuss any item separately, that item will be moved for separate consideration. The three items listed on today's consent agenda include the meeting minutes for Tuesday, September 26th, a resolution to adopt an amended pay and class scale for the city of South Fulton to approve the Human Resources Director's use thereof and for various other purposes, and for spreading upon the minutes a proclamation sponsored by Councilwoman Jackson recognizing free and accepted Ancient York Rite Masons Appreciation Day. I'll entertain a vote for consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, for the consent? I'd like to, will you read the motion first, right, before I can take something off? I gotta take something off.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda without the paid class.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing. Okay, go ahead.
Why are we removing paid class?
Because we have some discussion that we need to have about it.
Okay, all right.
You all right with that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes. Councilwoman Custom.
The proclamation is already been done. I don't have to make that today.
No.
Okay.
It's just spreading on the minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comment? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. That passes.
Your next item on the agenda is approval of the regular meeting agenda. I believe as carryover from the work session that we had earlier. It was requested to remove from today's agenda under the business section on page 3, Roman numeral 8, a resolution of the City of South Fulton, Georgia, executing a cooperation agreement between the city and the South Fulton Community Improvement District. This item will be held awaiting a presentation from them.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda with amended items.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Mr. Burke.
Yes, sir. The next item on page 2 is public comment. Speakers will be granted up to 2 minutes each, and public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. Mr. Mayor and members of council, we have received, it appears to be 5 speaker cards. So if the first 3 speakers would please come approach the podium at this time. Ms. Barbara McKee, Joyce Armster.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, citizens of South Fulton. I need to be very short because I have a lot to say. But the first thing I want to get out of the way is about the sidewalks that's being put on Old National. Some time ago, I think it was approved a couple years ago. I noticed it just stopped now. There's not working. What's going on down the street there to 138? That's my first question. Have we ran out of money? The second question. Number 3, do you have to get county approval to move it over to our new city? Okay, so now I'm to the name. Well, I was born, I'm gonna be real straightforward. I was named in the early 50s after a Barbie doll. My name is Barbara. Do I look like a Barbie doll? Okay, so that means with naming the new city, it need to reflect everyone. When I moved here in 2005, I did not expect the city name to be changed. I'm okay with the city of South Fulton. I'm okay with that. I know a lot of people say, oh, this and that. But if you go back and study the history of Atlanta, the burning of it, the train wrecks, and all these things, there's so much can be in a name. I'm not worried about my colleagues over the world. I'm worried about just my street, my city where I live. I would love to have a name instead of Wolf Creek, Camp Creek. Yes, Indians did live here before we came. I respect that. But right now, I live here and pay taxes. And I want a name that reflects me, where I live and what I love. City of South Fulton. So, 8 council members, when you get in that 4-hour meeting with 360 or 380, remember me. See my face. I am a leader in this city. I had no idea what was going on. I consider myself a real leader in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Sheila Stewart. I think I have talked to Mr. Mayor. I've talked to several people here. I have a problem with a neighbor that has a septic tank that is flowing out of the ground into my pasture, making my pasture a septic tank, which I have a lake that is spring fed, and I cannot get any kind of resolution on it. He had a ditch dug without a professional plumber, and the ditch was dug across in front of the street, in front of my gate, which now I cannot open my gate. My gate will not even meet, and it is still leaking. And I talked to the code enforcement this morning, and he was supposed to come out and call. I have not heard a word from him, and I don't know what else to do. I mean, I have videos of it flowing out of the ground. I have videos of my pasture. I have pictures of the ditch that was dug, and nothing is happening. I mean, I don't see how you can get by with your waste coming out of your ground and going onto somebody else's property, which that is a very bad health issue. Is that it? Keep talking? Okay.
Following Ms. Joyce Armstrong, it's S-A-V-I-T-R-I Crenshaw. Then we have Ms. Glenda Collins. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Joyce Armstrong. I'm going to take my 2 minutes to say thank you, Mayor, for calling us on the day that we had our cleanup. Thank you, Councilman Baker and Khadib, for joining in to help us. I also like to thank the board, my board, the Honorable the Old National Merchants, Judy Knowles and Corey Reeves of Keep South Fulton Beautiful, and the Old National Merchants. We had a special thank you for Walmart. Not only did they provide us food, they cooked, and they gave us a staff that cleaned up from Creel Road all the way to Highway 138. That was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank Councilman Joe Carnes of College Park. He cleaned from Herschel Road all the way up to the Bank of America on Old National. I also like to thank Chief Havard, Major Rogers, and Captain Cotton Toots and her staff. And also thanks to Code Enforcement. They picked up a total of 75 bags of trash that did not include the mattress and the box springs that were also picked up at that time. We have a long way to go, but I just believe if we keep working together, we're going to get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Savitra Crenshaw. The first question I had was, can we get an update on trash in terms of which company do we use? Because I was told that if we don't use the same one, then we would be fined. So my bill came today, so I was like, ooh, let me go ask that question.
Who told you that?
In our HOA meeting, we were told that. And then the second question, because I'm the HOA treasurer, and I don't know if this is the right form, but since we're here, D.R. Horton, the builder D.R. Horton, pulled out of our neighborhood without telling us and left an untreated retention pond for 18 months. And so we have everything now growing in it. And we're just finding out as I took office as the treasurer. And so I have a huge bill looking at me for trying to fix the landscape of it. And when we talked to the attorney, they told us it redirected us to Fulton County, which now is the new city of Fulton County, because we were told that the permits and all of that, and they were supposed to be coming and checking and all of that. So just want to throw that out there because I have to pay that bill.
Could you give the name of your?
South Hills. South Hills is the name of the community. And it was the builder D.R. Horton.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, District 5. First of all, I would like to thank you for Amnesty Day, which will be November the 4th. And we really appreciate that, and we have to work very hard on that day to help clean up our neighborhoods. Also, I have noticed some of the surrounding cities have moved their signs, such as Union City on Flat Shows. It moved further south. And the College Park sign also moved. So is there any way we can see an updated map of the city? Okay. And also on the naming of the city, I too am satisfied with the city of South Fulton. Thank you.
Okay, the next three speakers are Clinton Bailey Steele, Ms. Jewel Johnson, Mr. Kenneth Joe Sr., and actually the last speaker is, I want to say this says Corey Steele. Maybe it's Tony.
Tony Steele.
Tony Steele, okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Clinton Bailey. I'm the Boston Commission Manager for Burlington on Old National Highway. My question tonight would be, we have a serious problem with police response in the business district. It's been to the point where we now, as Burlington the business, have been affected to the point where we're having shrink issues, where people coming in, running out of our stores. We're losing customers because of the fact that cars been broken in, and the police response time has been, I don't even really like to say. I have much respect for the police force. You guys have done amazing things, but from a business standpoint, we are really taking the brunt of this. I have a manager here who wants to speak on behalf of his store.
Hey, good evening, everybody. First off, thank you for everything you do. We are very excited about being in the community. I've been in the community now for 2.5 months. I've been doing this for over 27 years, and I've worked with lots of communities. This is a great community. I want to give the city props too. When you watch the news and during all the hurricane stuff, we had, you saw in Florida, there was looting and all those things going on. No one touched our store during the time that we were out in the dark. And so the city should be commended for that. There was one police officer, and I didn't get his phone, his name and his badge number, because you often hear about the negative stuff. We want to thank him as well. He checked on me 3 times. I sat in the parking lot in the dark, just making sure logistically we were okay as a business. But I will say, police taking 2.5 hours to get a call for the folks that are not doing right in the community is disappointing. I know our store, our company, we pay taxes in the community, and to wait 2.5 hours for a response is unacceptable. 2 years ago, our company decided that they no longer wanted to be in the community. They were going to close the store down. That's lost revenue to the city. It's a beautiful thing. I recognize that now we're incorporated, and it's all a great thing, and we're trying to determine the name. Got to make sure we're taking care of the citizens that are there right now. Or they'll go somewhere else. I watched for 2 days, excuse me, sitting in the parking lot in the dark as people were walking by my store, going to other communities that were lit. And we lost revenue for 2 years. So again, I'm asking you all to please take a look at that. We do not want the store to have to close down. We don't want the company to walk away from the community. That would not be a good thing for the community. All right, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
And the last 2 speakers are Ms. Jewel Johnson and Mr. Kenneth F. Josey.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Jewel Johnson. I reside at 4660 Orchard Lane, District 1. What I want to talk to you about today has nothing to do with anything that was on the agenda. I'm here to talk about Select South Fulton and the South Fulton CID. I have had this conversation with my councilperson, Ms. Royal, and what I want to say to you is Select South Fulton, after doing my research, is not what we need. We've had these people for the last 20 years doing nothing. I want to know, why is it that we want to take our money and give it to someone else to do what citizens have been asking for years, and what we've asked for before we even had a referendum. I have worked in and out of most of these subdivisions in the whole city of South Fulton, and all I hear from these people is that they want clean streets, they want beautification, they want a place to shop, and they want good restaurants. Select South Fulton only brings to us nothing but warehouses. And I want to know, why is it that we want to spend money in that way, in that manner? Plus the fact there is no community input. They have decided what they wanted for us. It is an insult to the citizens of South Fulton to rubber stamp something that is not going to be in our best interest quickly. I want to talk about the South Fulton CID. After reading that, these are business people that has come together, and I don't knock business people because I love them, okay? But I also feel that whatever you're bringing to the community needs to have some input. They've designed and decided what they wanted, and it's more or less in their interest. In my opinion, they're pimping the city. Everybody wants their thing in the city. Nobody wants to hear from the citizens. And again, they're just like Select South Fulton. They have no citizens' input. And what I would encourage you to do, because I don't have enough time, is to let me have 2 minutes with all 7 of you, 8 including the mayor, to explain my version of what I understand about these 2 entities. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kenneth F. Joe Sr., Walden Park Subdivision, District 2. I want to echo Jewel on Select South Fulton. Again, we've had this entity under Fulton County. They did nothing under Fulton County as far as development. While we're paying them $75,000, I have no idea. The CID, again, these are business folks, and I'm a small business owner, I understand, but they got a horse in the race. I'm sorry, they can't speak for the whole city. And to think that they can, that is very disturbing. What I want to talk about is, the rest of my time, is the again, the $1 million, the abracadabra $1 million here, $1 million gone. Now, our city manager put a very unprofessional letter on the city website, where, as far as I'm concerned, it talks like she's talking to individuals and not as a professional, how mad she is and so forth and so on. It's really interesting. But let me just get to the point of the $1 million. There's two versions of what happened to this $1 million out there. Now, I did an open records request. Now, when I asked about the $1 million and she writes this letter, it was a mistake. It was accidentally counted twice. When a council person asks, it is industry standard of how this has happened, and you create margins and budgets. Well, I say it can't be both. And if it is what you put in your letter, that speaks to incompetence. If you're counting $1 million twice, you need to go. And I say that right now the council needs to make a motion to remove her immediately. Thank you.
Mr. Jones. All right, the next item, Mr. Mayor, members of council, continuing on page 2 under number 7, business resolutions. The first item is a resolution appointing Tiffany Carter Sellers.
That was on the last meeting. It's already been done.
The first resolution appointing Tiffany Carter Sellers has actually already been adopted, and so we can remove that part of the agenda.
All right, the next resolution is a resolution approving the agreement for transfer of municipal court jurisdiction and for municipal court services between Fulton County, Georgia and the city of South Fulton. That's under resolution 2017-055. I'll accept the motion.
Any questions? I have a question. Go ahead. As a part of this resolution, it states that the city shall compensate the county at an hourly rate of blank per hour for the services of the solicitor. The Solicitor General of the county shall have the sole discretion to choose from among There's no dollar.
I can speak to that. We've been working with Fulton County, and we're waiting on a number. It is my understanding it will be, the hourly rate for the solicitor will be somewhere around $89 an hour, similar to the municipal judge, or less. But it's, we're waiting on that number, and once we have that,
Karen, why are you saying this? Why are you putting this up there and ain't got no money in it?
well, it has the other provisions, and we wanted to go ahead and get this rolling considering courts are coming online soon. Once we have that provision from Fulton County, they wanted to go ahead and make sure we were okay with the terms.
It says, so I understand it says not to exceed.
Not to exceed $89
Oh,
an
okay,
hour.
that's a little different. Go ahead. Okay, and so it does talk about $89 an hour. And it also talks about the city shall compensate the county at a monthly rate of $17,637 per month to provide staffing. So I think we need more details rather than just jumping right into this with, and I know that it's time sensitive and all of that, but still, there's too many loopholes.
This is for clerk services as well. The $17,000, I believe, is for the clerk services.
For the clerk's office.
For the clerk's office to
Process
$17,000 a month for the clerk's office.
correct, to manage the docket, to I mean, mainly their intake, they're kind of your intake for the courts.
So that comes down to almost
$185,000. And it is important to note that this is an IGA and, you know, to use the services, and we can end it upon on the notice court. It's just to help us once our courts come online November 1, that we have a structure in place for it to operate.
I have to ask the mayor a question. Mayor Edwards, do we have any other alternative in terms of an arrangement with any other city?
Yes, we do.
So if that's the case, then we might be better off by doing that instead
We
of
don't,
this.
but we have an agreement, but we don't have an MOU. And we're working on MOU, and that city's council has to pass that MOU. But everything's in order. We're just waiting for the MOU to be passed by the city.
So therefore, we don't need to pass this right now.
Well, you got to pass it. You still have to have a court until we get it all done. But we do have an agreement that's going to be exercised by another city to use their court facility. But once again, all of the major players are saying yes. We just don't have MOU, and they're working on it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you were next.
I agree with Ms. Gilliard. I do not think that we should be signing something. This is what we've gotten into while we're where we are now. And, you know, a lot of the static and the bickering because we're signing things and just paying like we have blank checks. And we don't have that. I think we need to see the correct dollar amount. Well, I'm not going to vote for it. You know, we need to see a correct dollar amount before anything. We can't continue to do this. We don't have blank checks. I'm done.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just for clarity, based on what you said, we're obligated to the payment in 5.8 under a contract, and this current contract will expire December 31st, 2017. And I'm wondering if the council will entertain 5.9 being amended to say an hourly rate up to $89, which I think that addressed most of what I heard raised.
No, that only addresses a little bit of what, it needs more detail. I mean, that doesn't take you know, a week or so. We don't have to just jump and do it. And that's the problem. That's the problem is one of is just blank. Okay,
Right,
and the other one is $17,000 a month, and then the other one is $89 an hour.
Right, so what I proposed was we're obligated, we're under a contract right now. That number, based on what he said, is not going to change. And all I said in terms of that, addressing your concern, if you say up to, that means anything less than. If we amend section 5.9 that has the blank, that was everything you raised in your comments. That's why I'm asking, would you consider that?
So just give me a moment. So you're saying we already have a contract right now for $89 an hour?
For the judges.
For the
judges.
Yeah, we're from county.
Yeah. So we on the hook.
I have a question.
You ready?
This is after the transfer.
I am.
Okay. You want to respond? You want to respond? Okay. Councilwoman Willis.
What is our timeline? We have to have our court stood up by October 31st, November 1st?
November 1.
Okay. You finished?
Was that correct?
November 1.
November 1. So the next time we have a council meeting will be
24.
And the only thing in question was the $89, the rate of $89. Everything else we have which is $89 an hour, I think. Up to 89. But if we're willing to vote on this friendly amendment, I think we need to move forward. We have to have a court stood up by October, I'll be back on the 1st.
I think that Mayor Pro Tem offered a reasonable alternative. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't get this court started, we losing millions of dollars. Right now, we're paying $89 and the rest of the money going to them. We ain't making one dime. So we're paying $89 now per hour. Let's pay $89 and let the money come to us. Makes sense. Let the money come to us. Because, I mean, you know, these courts, I mean, they're hearing cases on cases every day. And we're paying, and we're not getting not one return on our dollar for doing it. So I think she made a reasonable alternative to it. I think you should actually consider it.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend section 5.9 to reflect the city shall compensate the county at an hourly rate of up to $89 per hour for the services of a solicitor. Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Mr. Baker.
Yes, sir. I just want to know, when will we determine what will be that rate, given that we're saying up to 89? And if we waited, what would be the difference between next week and actually having that? Are we moving forward expeditiously after this vote?
You're 2 weeks more prepared to open up a court. That's the difference.
So when
we it's already open, Ms. Gilliard, I hear you. But you ain't making a dime.
I know, but it's still open.
It's open and ain't making no money, don't mean that.
No, but what I'm saying, we won't make any money before we have this rate established.
I'm sorry, I got myself out of order.
Okay.
Excuse me. Go ahead, Mr. Baker, you got the floor.
No, I mean, it's a question. I just want, I
Restate
think you were ready to. The difference between us accepting this right now without clarity on the rate and moving up in 2 weeks and voting once we determine that rate is what? Your answer briefly in the interruption was that we'll be 2 weeks closer to establishing the court. But we're not going to be collecting any revenue in between this time and our next session when we vote. And we still won't have an established rate. I'm just asking.
I want to take this, she's going to answer for it. That's what I'm saying. I want you to take into consideration what you just said, and the agreement says up to $89.
Right.
So you really don't, what you don't know is, what's it going to be if it's cheaper?
The reality of it is, we've had several discussions and we know that under the IGA, we're overpaying anyway. So when we say up to $89 and then we turn around and accept $89 because we were paying it in the IGA anyway, we're overcharging ourselves, we're paying too much again. So I guess what I'm saying is this is a simple question as to when we're going to determine what will be that rate. And I'm just asking what is going to, right, of course.
I'd like to respond. I think when I look at the up to 89, it's no different than what we would do with a pay and scale as a range. And I would hope that our legal counsel could bring back to us at the October 24th meeting what has been agreed upon. Because without a contract, they probably won't be doing anything additional to prepare for this transition.
With respect, the first thing the mayor said was, why you give us this without
right.
number? So it's like we're still at the same place, and now we're just saying, let's just vote on it with the gray area. All right, well, the vote is on.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I did put a number in, so it wouldn't exceed that amount.
And that number is that same number that we feel that we've been overcharged for all of these months anyway.
Well, I got to say that I hear you. This kind of conversation is the reason why we ain't got no name. And we need to move. We need to move, and we need to move. We need the time to set this thing up. And I'm telling you, do you have the amount of fines and things that's been generated? Or maybe Judge, do you have fines and things that's been generated over this last couple of months? If you don't have it, I understand. I'm just asking you.
We've been working with the judge about pulling information from different cities and
Judge, you've been working with the magistrate court, right?
I have.
What have the fines been looking at? What have they been seeing?
The way that Fulton County is currently handling it, the magistrate court is handling traffic.
Right.
They're binding all of the misdemeanor criminals over to state court. So those fines are going to state court, and I have a meeting scheduled with, the fines and fees and things of that nature are going to state court.
Right.
As it relates to magistrate court that's currently handling our traffic, right now, I believe that the officers in this area since January 1 have issued up to 6,500 citations. So that's 6,500 citations, fines and fees and surcharges that have gone to Fulton County, and we haven't seen a dime of it. So the goal was to get the court up and running as soon as possible so that we can stop that transfer from happening.
Okay, thank you, man.
Thank you.
I called you Mayor.
No, sir.
First, anybody?
Yes, I was saying, with respect to all of that good information, we're not going to start collecting those fines still until November. But I want to leave that right there.
Okay.
So it's not going to change right now that we're going to start collecting.
Well, I think I hear you, and I'm saying this. We may be 2 weeks closer to getting our stuff off the ground than we would if we waited 2 weeks and did nothing. That's what I'm saying.
Can I ask the judge a question?
Yes.
Lauer.
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Yeah, I want to
I've said that. I
ask you a
apologize.
question. In your opinion, what is it going to take for where we are right now to get up and running by November the 1st?
Well, we have, I've been working very diligently to do that. So hiring staff is obviously a big issue. But we have posted for, I believe, all but one of the positions that we're going to fund and hire. And so that will be done. As it relates to location of the court, which would be the other issue, as Mayor Edwards has alluded to, we have worked with another jurisdiction and have an agreement from, I have an agreement with the other chief judge, and Mayor Edwards has an agreement with the mayor. So right now, it's just being reduced to writing to utilize their facility until our facility is up and running. And the rest of it is, once the employees are onboarded, it's simply a matter of getting them trained, getting them up to speed, purchasing the software, which all can be done very, very quickly. I've also worked with the police department to get them, have a swearing in so that they can issue tickets in our jurisdiction. So that will all be done by November 1st. I believe that all of the paperwork from GCIC, GDS, and all of that stuff is in. I believe that the police department got their ORI number, which is their identification number, last week.
Right.
So all of our departments have worked diligently to meet the council's deadline of November 1st. And we believe that we can do it. We believe that we can do it.
So what I hear you saying then, I think, is that whether we vote on this tonight or not, everything is moving right along for it to be a seamless transition, correct?
Now I will reserve judgment on that. You have competent legal counsel, and I, as a lawyer, I don't step on other lawyers' toes. So you have competent legal counsel, and if she has prepared the resolution based on her discussions with the county attorney, I am outside of those discussions. I don't meet with the county attorney.
So Ms. Anderson, weigh in on this, please.
I do think, so it is important to note, okay. It is important to note that under the charter, Fulton County has to transfer jurisdiction of the municipal court to us, which is what this IGA does. That's one part of it. Given the status that we previously had without having a judge at the time, we had asked Fulton County about additional services just in case we could not get things on board. And that is the result of the IGA. That's the inclusion of the clerk services. You know, we believe to ensure that there is a smooth process, it is important to have this IGA in place. And, you know, if we transition everything, if the judge has the document management system online as of November 1, that's great. Then we don't have to use some of these services that are provided in the IGA, and we do not have to pay for them. But this is here as kind of a backstop to assist the judge in getting the courts off the ground.
And if I may, Councilwoman Gilliard, I've also, not only have I spoken to the people kind of that do the day-to-day work, but I've also met with the judges, met with the clerk to discuss this transition. They obviously are eagerly awaiting the transition. I don't think that this is something that they're not looking forward to. But they're eagerly awaiting the transition. They're willing to help, however necessary, to ensure that we can have this transition. And I believe, at least from my standpoint and the things that I'm responsible for, we will be ready by November 1st.
So actually, even though this is for 2 months, it might we might only need one of those 2 months. Yes. So if they're out in here such that we don't get bound into 60 days, just in case.
I'm just trying to check and read about the termination. I mean, it terminates on December 31st, and then we can extend for an additional period. Let me review the contract.
On or before.
It says shall terminate on December 31st. It doesn't say before, but let me look in the contract to make sure I'm not missing anything as far as an early termination period.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Gilliard, would you be amenable if we can get the clause that speaks to the ability to terminate prior to December 31st, please? I'm gonna restate my motion. That we amend section 5.9 to say up to $89, and that a termination clause be included that would allow us to terminate this contract before December 31st, 2017.
Second.
Properly moved, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, aye. Opposed? That would be Baker, Jackson, and Camus. That passes.
I do believe that motion was just an amendment, so you would need to make a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
I thought that's what she did. She said, I'll change my original motion. Since the motion
I think she just added a clause to the amendment.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept resolution 2017-055 as amended.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Still Mr. Baker, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Camus.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the next item is a resolution to adopt a meeting schedule for the mayor and city council of the city of South Fulton, Georgia, to comply with Georgia Open Meetings Act and for various other purposes.
I make a motion to accept resolution number 2017-056.
I second it.
Been properly moved to second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those who are in favor? That passes unanimously.
Next resolution is a resolution to adopt the Community Development Services Department's 2017 calendars for rezonings, modifications, and variances for the mayor and city council of the city of South Fulton to comply with the Georgia Open Meetings Act and for various other purposes.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. I am Shayla Reed. I am your Deputy Director of the Community Development Services Department, and I will be leading your planning and zoning activities. We are asking tonight to have the 2017 zoning calendar approved. We are preparing for the moratorium to be lifted November 1st, and we're having the first quarter of the calendar to be considered, and then coming back in December to present the remainder of the calendar to you. We're asking to have that so that we'll have more time to consider advertisement dates as well as locations and so forth for the remainder of the year for next year. So again, at this time, we're asking for your consideration of this item. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lewis.
Have the planning and zoning commission been trained, or?
Thank you for that question. We actually have the zoning board of appeals trained last week. The planning commission will meet next week for training.
What day and time?
I believe that is October 18th, but let me give a definite to you tomorrow.
In the training, are you going to go over, how can I phrase this? Decorum and how they should communicate with public, what they should not communicate with public, and also social media?
So our planning director and I have sat and we've discussed the actual operations of the planning commission and how they should be presenting this information. He's gathered a great listing of information that speaks about planning to the core, like literally to a very, I hate to say dumb firm, but to basically break it down. So if you don't know what planning is, you'll know at the end of the training and what their roles are.
Councilwoman Jackson, have you finished? I'm sorry. Okay, Councilwoman.
Will there be another training for zoning appeal?
No, ma'am, not at this time. They received the training last week.
Okay.
That was in depth.
One person was not included in that training.
Okay. I can speak with our planning department to see what provisions can be made for that. I'll speak, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
I have a similar question about the code enforcement board. I had a person to drop out from that position, so if you could just be mindful, maybe we could do a training for them. I also had hoped to attend the training so I could get a better understanding of what each body did, and the students did not come. So I would like to have some sort of training for our council about all three of those boards. I don't know if the rest of the council is interested in learning, but I am. So if there's a way that we could come and meet with you all, that'd be great.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Understood.
Okay. Motion.
I make a motion that resolution number 217-057.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I want y'all to see all these unanimous votes up there now.
The next resolution is a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of South Fulton to appoint a trustee for the city of South Fulton defined contribution and 457B deferred contribution plans to authorize the plan record keeper to act as agent of the trustee and for various other purposes. This resolution is item 2017-058.
Councilwoman Gilliard.
I just want to know why was the Alliance Trust Company chosen?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and Quilla Henderson from Human Resources. Reliance Trust is one of the partners of Mass Mutual. So Mass Mutual being our plan administrator, that's who they selected. We also involved our CFO as the city treasurer to look through and make sure that we were making the appropriate recommendations.
Thanks.
Well,
Any further questions? Tim?
I make a motion to accept resolution 2017-058.
Properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those who oppose? Mr. Khalid opposes. That motion passed.
Continuing on page 3, resolution of the City of South Fulton awarding a contract to Springstead Waters of St. Paul, Minnesota for the recruitment of the city manager and chief of police to authorize the mayor to execute said contract in an amount not to exceed $46,550 and to provide an effective date. This item is resolution 2017-059.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have two questions.
Okay.
She made the motion, you want to get it? It's properly moved in second. Discussion, now you got it.
Mayor, I just have one, sorry, city attorney over here. We were reviewing the resolution and actually needed to make some changes to make sure it comports with Georgia law. There's no substantive changes to it's to the actual resolution. And we can pass those out for your consideration at this time. It's just, like I said, it's just stylistic and form, for lack of a better.
Yeah, well, you have the floor. Okay. Number one, it states that mayor is to execute the contract, but then it says that the mayor, the interim city manager, and the interim city attorney are each authorized to execute the agreement and sign any necessary documents to effectuate the intent of this resolution. And I know that the mayor and the interim city attorney signs contracts, but not the interim city manager. So I don't know why the interim city manager is listed in here. In addition to that, it states that this contract will be for 1 year. And this contract needs to be for a much shorter period of time than for a 1 year period. So I wanted to bring those two things up.
Councilwoman Gilliard, our resolution actually addresses your first question.
What you just passed?
Yes, the one with the substitute that we just passed out does address your question regarding signature of the agreement.
Read the bar.
Approval and execution, it has that the mayor is hereby authorized to sign all documents necessary to effectuate this resolution, including but not limited to the agreement. It's section 3.
So what about the 1 year?
I'll defer to, I'm going to defer to Ms. Adams.
Excuse me, real quick, Mr. Mayor, if I may. This seems a lot more beefed up than 059. Is it possible before her presentation for you to just tell us the difference in all of this, and it's just two papers? This is just 2 papers right
Sure.
here. Yeah.
I'm happy to. So we changed the title of the resolution. Basically, under Georgia law, you need your title needs to include all of the important provisions that are in the meat of the resolution, and so that's what the change of the resolution title does.
But in the title, one of the most important things, like the price, $46,550, is absent from this new. So if the important stuff is not in here, that's important. No, I'm talking about in the title. That's what
But it says to provide for a maximum limit of payment under the agreement. So it's just changing it as opposed to a specific term to provide for a maximum limit. And then if you look at section 2, we still have, under section 2 of the resolution, it still says that the amount payable under the agreement shall not exceed $46,000.
It has no ending date.
And we can have that in the agreement itself as opposed to the actual resolution.
But I think the 1 year is in the resolution.
In the new, is it in the new resolution? I don't.
The 1 year is in the old resolution, the one that we have tonight. There is no term in what we just passed out.
Right, which would allow us to have the term in the actual agreement as opposed to the resolution. Councilman Baker, I can also highlight some of the other changes if you would like to see.
But I mean, I think that's one thing.
If we would like to include a term limit in the resolution, I'm happy to do so. It just gives us a little bit more flexibility as far as including it in the actual agreement as opposed to the resolution, but if the council would like to amend, that is fine.
I need to amend my thing.
You got the floor. I'd like to make a motion that, and I really wrote it out, that the period, that it should be no more than 30 days with the selection of the 3 top candidates no later than November 15th.
She's making an amendment. I second. That was the amendment. Oh, go ahead, discuss what that was. Excuse me, there's no, I didn't, unless I'm just sitting up there blind, I didn't get one motion made. That was an amendment. So you need a motion first.
I did the motion, and it was second.
Rose's motion was on the floor.
Oh, okay, then that's the
That's
case.
what I'm
Do you
saying.
accept
She
her
needs to
amendment?
amend.
She just did.
Do you accept her amendment?
I do.
Okay, good. We cool.
Do I need to address the 1 year?
Yes.
Okay. The 1 year is to cover for the recruitment of the city manager and also the chief of police. That's for the contract that we decide to go back to the same firm. That we did advertise both, that the 1 year is to cover both recruitment. But there's a timeline for the city manager, and Representative Mr. Art Davis is here with Springstead Waters to be able to address the timeline for the city manager piece.
Okay. Okay, Councilwoman Miller.
Yes, that was going to be my question. I thought we were supposed to, once the vendor was decided on, the vendor was supposed to come and give us some type of detailed explanation on timeline. And I do recall that we had a resolution on when we wanted to have a permanent city manager in place, but there was no resolution. Was the police chief included in the resolution? So
we don't hire the police chief.
Exactly, we don't hire the police chief.
Absolutely right.
We have timeline on that.
But still, there was no time. There was only a timeline for when we wanted the executive search completed for the city manager.
But we don't see this as a question. We don't see it.
I got you. Excuse me, Ms. Willis has the floor.
But the executive search is for the police chief and the city manager.
Now, I heard a lot of hands. I think I heard Mr. Bean first.
I just want to say, we actually do have a resolution to name someone, I believe, by the 31st, a few weeks back. And I just want to know, are people interested in splitting up the police chief and the city manager? And if that's possible, what would that look like?
The solicitation that was advertised, it included both.
So is it possible to split them now?
Not when we have advertised for both. We would have to cancel this solicitation and start the process all over for one. The scope included both.
But we could cancel this, we could do that. We could cancel this solicitation and start over.
Absolutely.
I'm just asking what's
Let him
possible.
get his answer.
That's it, thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Jackson and then the Mayor Pro Tem.
Did I hear you say that the person was here
Yes.
to explain to us
The timeline.
the timelines that we had asked for in our resolution?
Yes.
Okay, and that timeline is November 30th? Is that what we have, or what do you have? The
I
resolution?
had by December 31st.
That person is here?
Yes.
Okay, so can we hear from that person? I'm not.
Really?
Can we hear from that person, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. It's an honor to be before you tonight. My name is Art Davis. I'm with Springstead Waters. We have, can you not hear me? I'm sorry. My name is Art Davis with Springstead Waters. I am part of a 7-member recruitment team. We have offices in Richmond, Virginia. I'm in Kansas City, the Kansas City area, Dallas, St. Paul, Minnesota, which is where our headquarters is, and Chicago, and there may be another office as well. To just get right to the point, and I don't think you want to hear a presentation, you've read the proposal and the details. The rationale, as I understand it, for doing 2 positions at once is to be more efficient in being able to implement the first recruitment, and then be able to, toward the end of the first recruitment concurrently, utilize some of the same base information and begin to go out on the second recruitment for the police chief search, so that there can be an expedited time frame and some efficiencies gained by using the same firm. And time efficiencies and obviously a knowledge base that we've already got. There's a less startup time to get that process started. We're a little bit behind what was proposed in the original proposal. We're about, I think we're about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks past that. So what was in the original proposal has to be bumped, assuming that we use that same timeline. And you know, we can try to expedite a bit the timeliness of the recruitment. However, we don't want to put at risk the quality of the candidates that you're able to obtain for this recruitment. And the reason that there needs to be adequate timeline is that it's not unusual for candidates to withdraw from a process, or for you to decide. And I would encourage you, if the candidate pool is not correct, that you give us marching orders to go out and find additional or new candidates. And we have what we call a triple guarantee. We will stick with the recruitment until you find the right person for this position and positions. And number 2, we will stand by the appointed person for up to 24 months after appointment. And the third is, we won't come back and try to recruit them for other positions. That's our triple guarantee. The timeline, you know, originally I think was toward the end of December, and we would have to, that would be bumped into January, toward the end of January, by the time the timeline were to start, which is when we're able to execute a contract, which we do not have a contract yet. We have to work with the staff to develop a contract to begin the work, and then we would schedule a visit with you all when you're able to meet with us for a first meeting, because we need to sit down and talk with you as the reporting governing body for whom this person will report to. We need to talk about the characteristics, the skills, the experience that you're going to want in this position, so that we can include it in the brochure and the profile and begin to identify those candidates both regionally and throughout the country to pursue. So that's some of the timeliness, and it's not something that can happen in 30 days or 60 days. Typically, recruitments take about 90 days to conduct, and we've done over 500 recruitments since 2010. So, and that's from all sizes. I'm currently working on Chief Financial Officer for DeKalb County, and we've done work for Fulton County as well. So, you know, we do have experience in the area, and we've done a lot of recruitments for city managers and police chiefs and other professional positions throughout local government. We specialize solely in city and county government and some nonprofit, but mostly city and county government. And I'm a former city manager, and for 16, 17 years was in the public sector before I started working for my current firm.
Councilwoman Jackson and Councilwoman Gunn.
So what I hear you saying is you're looking at the end of January?
Mid to late January, but some of it depends on when we can get you all together and find a time that everybody can meet to conduct interviews, to go through the semifinalist candidates, and it's not an exact science on defining the exact timeline when it can be done.
No, but you were saying 90 days, so
Yeah.
that would take us to the end of
Exactly.
January.
Yeah.
And what date, so you were given the dates for December 31st?
Yeah, and we put a proposed timeline that would meet that. We put in a proposed timeline that would meet that, but that was based on a deadline of kicking it off about 3 weeks ago. Right. If I understand it correctly.
Right.
I'm just trying to.
Yes, that was based on us bringing it to council on September 26th.
Okay.
We didn't make that meeting, so now we are 2 to 3 weeks out.
Councilwoman Gunn, and then,
Yeah, because.
No, not yet.
Oh, yeah.
So after Councilwoman Gunn, you can go, and then Councilwoman Willis.
So, Mr. Davis, so
Yes,
you don't
ma'am.
already have, I guess, a pool of talent already for city manager that you already have in your wheelhouse? Because there are people that are out there looking for city manager roles. So you do not have anyone currently in your
Well,
talent
I mean,
capacity?
we have access and a network of people that we know may have an interest in various cities based on their size and their experience level, et cetera. However, we try to start obviously utilizing the network that we have, but we also are very aggressive in pursuing all the professional associations and and very aggressively pursuing candidates that sometimes aren't even looking for jobs. We don't necessarily want people that are being chased out of another community or not having employment currently. We want to have a broad spectrum of candidates and want to convince candidates that may be happy in their current place of employment to take a look and try to identify those top performers that want to come and provide their services in this community.
So 2 things in respect to the city manager role. We had a position also posted online, and I think the last time we checked, we had about 80 to 100 applications that are supposed to be to the firm. So with your talent pool and the 80 or so applications that are available, then we should be able to have some pool that we can look to and expedite this process. So are we able to expedite the city manager, permanent city manager process, and then also continue the process of looking for doing the national search for the police chief, is what we're asking, because as the client, we should be able to dictate to you what our plans are.
I'm just giving you my recommendations for what we typically do as best practices for finding the best pool of candidates, the most diverse pool of candidates that we can find. You need at least 30 days advertising, and we need to be given at least 30 days to go out and beat the bushes to try to find strong, viable candidates for that position. You may have some strong candidates, or you may not. But part of our guarantee that we offer is based on giving us the opportunity to go out and find the best candidates we can find, and being able to vet the candidates and conduct our due diligence questions and our background and reference checks and all of the things that we typically do with the search that ensures that you are looking at really top level candidates for these positions.
So to expedite the process, are you able to start looking at those 80 to 100 applications that came through our portal, our website, versus what you have at this point in time?
Well, we would gladly look at it, sure. I don't know that that expedites the process, though, for 30 days.
And that will be after we execute a contract. We will not turn that information over until then.
Because you give me 80, I'm going to have a rebate. As Councilman Baker was saying,
Well, I think Councilwoman Gumbs said a lot of the things that I was going to say. I'm just looking at $46,550, and I think that we advertise that with the timeline, of course for both, with the timeline affixed to it, and just a couple of meetings ago. We had, I mean, all due respect to you, sir, we made a motion to have our staff do this task for free because we already pay them. And we already have 80 plus applicants. So I want us to just consider that before we move forward with the $46,550. I'm sure there's a part of this that can go still to the police search, if that's what the will of the council is, but $46,550, and we're still not going to get the timeline. Keep in mind, we have to bring Parks and Recs over as soon as January. So we're going to hire a city manager, or probably not, based on what we just heard, until after January. So we're going to put Ms. Ruth through bringing over Parks and Recs and transition someone else in throughout that process. So just keep that in mind.
Councilwoman Willis and then Council Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilperson Baker, for making that very valid. Councilman Baker, for making that very valid point. Our priority is to transition our employees and our municipal services over. I think it's real foolish for us to try to bring in a brand new city manager in by December 31st or January, when we have to transition Parks and Recs over in January. We're looking at transitioning police the next month, fire the next month, police the next month, and that person is going to have to figure out what is going on. And majority of this council voted to end Ruth's interim contract by December 31st. Then, this is the mayor's nomination.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I might have lost my train of thought in all of this. But I wanted to make a motion to accept moving forward with the contract with, make sure I have his name right. It could be up for discussion. Springstead Waters.
Mr. Clerk, who's the motion?
Well, you do have a motion on the floor made by Councilwoman Jackson, seconded by Councilmember Gumbs, and this was to approve the awarded recommendation with a friendly amendment that came from Councilmember Gilliard. This is related to the time period, no more than 30 days.
Mr. Kamu?
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you had looked down this way. I actually wanted to piggyback off of something that both Councilwoman Willis and Councilman, get my PGPs together, right? So we can spend this $46,000, we can review these 80 to 100 applications, and at the end of the day, you have the right as mayor to not nominate anyone that we pick. You're not bound at all by any work that the search firm has done. And the same would be true for the city manager hiring the chief of police. So we could pay all this money, do all this work. And so my question actually would be to you and Madam City Manager, are you all going to, is it your intention, I'm not going to ask you to make a promise, but like, is it your intention to go with the advisement of this company? Because if it's not, then I just think we don't need to spend the money. Like, if you're just going to look through the names and point who you want, and the manager's going to look through the names and point who they want, we could save this $46,000 for lights on action. Yes, sir.
Of course, I don't want to speak on behalf of your permanent city manager, but I do believe that you need to continue with the process for police chief. And that way you're getting down a narrow group from that individual to select from. So I do believe on the police chief, you need to continue the process.
Now, Mr. Kalu, you know I want to do the right thing. But I have some fundamental issues. One being, and I agree with Mr. Baker and Ms. Willis, and I agree with you. You don't agree with me? You ain't said nothing yet. Let me ask you a question, Barbara. Does your proposal include travel?
It's all inclusive, no,
That's
all
a good
expenses
thing.
included.
That's a good thing.
And I just would note that, you know, you see a lot of communities that fail because they don't have top quality administrators within their municipal organizations. And the best way to ensure continued future prosperity and well-run municipal organization is having the best leadership in your both your city manager and your police chief, with no disrespect to all the other professional positions, but those are two very, very important positions. And you kind of have one chance to get it right. So
thank you. You said everything I thought you were going to say. All right. So here's more. The police chief part has been bothering me, Mr. Kamu, because the city manager will appoint the police chief. The guy whoever comes in here as city manager may decide, well, that's, you know, I could call some police organizations and stuff like that that I've known, and they could send me some recommendations in and stuff like that. So that's the scary side. As for me, I'm going to do what is right and what's economically feasible for what we need to do with it. If you're spending $47,000 for a search like that, yeah, man, I'm going to look at it. Absolutely. But I just think that maybe, you know, on the other end with the police chief, I disagree with the manager. On the police end, I think we may be jumping a little bit. You know, the other thing I'm going to say, and I'm closing out for me, is what you all were saying. We got to transition people over here. And you have to be in that office every day to see the kind of things that fall out, that you have to pick up and put back, and track the legal things. You think you're going this way, and she come up with some legal issue, and you got to backtrack, and you know, in terms of transition. All right, I'm scared. I'm scared that if we don't get everything transitioned in place, that we may mess up somewhere. She has been going through this thing, whether you like her, love her, or whatever the case may be, I don't know. But she has been going through this and got us to the point where we are today. And we're right at the door knocking. We gotta go through the door. We gotta get through the door. So a new person comes in and he's faced with all this other stuff, and it may throw us a little back, Mr. Baker, I think, and I hope not. But that's the fear that I have.
And so, just to respond to that, I mean, if it's not your intention to appoint a city manager before we transition these 3 departments, then I definitely don't want to spend $46,000 on this.
Hold it up, but I'm mandated to do that. There's a resolution on the floor that says she's got to go to 31st. I'm mandated.
Well, actually, because I wrote the resolution. It doesn't say that she has to go. It just says that we have to appoint a permanent city manager. So if it's your intention to appoint,
so we got 2.
No. She's an interim city manager. So if it's your intention to just go ahead and appoint Ms. Jones as the current city manager, as the permanent city manager in January, like if you're worried about bringing somebody new in as we're transitioning these departments, and it's your intention to just go ahead and either appoint Ms. Jones as the permanent city manager, or if we're going to do something else. Because one of the things that I heard the gentleman from Springstead Water say is that often people drop out you know, either because we're taking too long or because they're getting other offers. So I just want to make sure that we're not, you know, wasting $46,000. And it's not really something that's going to happen if we're not going to abide by the recommendations that we're paying $46,000 for. If we're not going to do it in the next 90 days, then maybe we just need to wait. 60 days.
I'm going to recognize two other hands that we got to move on. Councilwoman Willis, Councilwoman Pro Tem.
Mayor, I think this is borderline executive session discussion because it is regarding a personnel matter, and we do have the interim city manager sitting over here. And again, this is your nomination, and I would ask that you could give us some direction on how you want to proceed, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to, you're going to determine when you want to appoint someone. We can sit here and make resolutions all day, but this is your nomination, and I understand you saying you're mandated to make a nomination, but can we legally mandate that he makes a nomination by a certain time? I'm asking legal. Can we legally do that? Can we mandate that he has to make a nomination by a certain day?
No.
I don't believe you have the power to mandate that the mayor make a
So
nomination.
you're going back and forth from now on. That's what y'all want to do?
What I'm saying is that we need direction from our mayor. This is his nomination. We need direction from him. And we need to stop trying to make resolutions that is not going to take us anywhere.
Please let the record show Councilwoman Willis and I agree.
Hold on, let me write that down. I'm going to let Pro Tem go, and Ms. Gilliard, you're the last person.
I haven't said anything.
You in the bathroom somewhere.
But I had to come back.
Well, one of the things, I want to recognize the work of our staff, because I think you did a fine job in terms of getting, you know, the short list and going through the process. I think what we've heard is that we wanted to do a national search. I think what we're getting stuck on is this timeline per the ordinance, but I mean the ordinance that introduced a resolution by Councilman Camus. But I think if we deal with the recommendation from the professional, which he's saying that to do a quality search, and I think we all want a quality city manager, that they proceed in the timeline, particularly given the comments that we heard from the mayor and his concern, if you will, about how this happens, how this transition happens. He's saying 90, you know, give or take on either side.
We
They
might
move
be
forward
able to
with
cut down
contracting.
some days if, you know, we're able to schedule meetings, special meetings instead of waiting for the next official council meeting, things like that.
Yeah. It may be possible. With that said, I want us to call for the vote on the motion that's on the floor.
You called for the previous question.
No, I didn't say that.
You called for the previous question. You didn't get a second.
Well, it could be amended.
Hold up. Let me get Ms. Gilliard to say something.
And I'm really frustrated because we started this in July. This is October. We've been on the slow train for a long time. So what you see is a lot of frustration because we can talk about the naming and all of that, but we've been doing this for a long time, okay? And so, as you well know, any experienced and really excellent, or whatever you want to call, city manager can walk in today and pick it up and move it to the next level. It ain't no big deal. So transitioning is really not an issue. A contract with you, and I don't mean any disrespect in any kind of way, for a year is putting us back on the slow train.
Well, we're not going to take a year.
Right, I know.
If all of a sudden you've got, this was for both city manager and police.
Right.
And if you had candidates withdraw, or I don't know when your elections are, but then whole new board come into place and you decide you want to restart this particular search, you know, that just takes into account some additional time. If you want to make it 6 months, we can make it 6 months.
But we've always been on the train of, we know that the police will be late March. Hopefully that won't change again. And the city manager is on another timetable. So they're not going to happen at the same time. We've been doing this too long. This needs to happen. So that's all I have to say.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, but I do want to make sure that the motion maker, Councilmember Jackson, and the seconder, Councilmember Combs, are accepting the substitute resolution that legal counsel passed out.
What was that motion for?
There was approval of a resolution along with a friendly amendment to that the period of this procurement be no more than 30 days.
We're not able to do
30 days.
Yes, this is the friendly amendment by Councilmember Gilliard.
To the end of November, I said.
Right, yes. No, I heard you say November 15th.
I said 15.
I didn't listen.
Can we go with this?
Can you do 60 days?
He said 90 days.
He can do all you want.
But he said to do
That's not the issue. So let me do this. Can I get the motion right? So the original motion is on the old document that was passed out, right? So we have to change that, number one. Okay? And then you got an amendment that says you give, did it say 90 or did it say November 30th or did it say November 15th?
She said both 30 days and she said November 15th.
30 days, November 15th.
So are you saying you can't do that?
We're not going to be able to get that all done.
He said 90 days is what he can do.
Okay, hold up. So he's, Ms. Gilliard?
Yes, you can. Okay, I change it to 90.
Who was the maker of the motion?
It's Jackson.
Jackson, you accept?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Khalid, Mr. Kamau?
I think instead of just throwing out random dates, that we should probably look at our work session schedule, our meeting schedule, because once we have the names, then the mayor will still have to make a nomination, and we will still have to vote to approve his nomination. We have 4 meetings left in this year to do that vote.
That's right.
So we probably want to make the amendment for November 27th or December 11th, so that we can have the names or a list of names for the mayor to make a nomination or not make a nomination, and us to vote on before the end of the year.
Is that doable?
That's not 90 days.
That's not
by
90
my
days.
calculations.
What is your calculation, 90 days?
From the time we actually get a contract signed, which could be another week, I don't know. 90 days.
90 days from the date of the contract.
So, hold up.
That's probably the end of the.
You know, we're gonna get this motion right in a minute. So, let's get y'all, hold up y'all. So we took another turn on the motion. Did you make the amendment? Did y'all with the amendment? And what are you saying now?
The amendment that I made was for it to be January, because he said he cannot do it until January. That's what you said.
January is fine with you?
90 days from the signing of the contract, which, assuming it's next week, I think is close to January. I don't have.
Why don't you say 90 days from the signing of the contract, Ms. Gilliard? All right, we'll say it.
90 days from the signing of the contract.
Yes, okay, you accept that 4th amendment? All right. Any further discussion? You might want to read that back to she's.
You're not going to read it back? Okay.
Absolutely. So what you have before you is a motion made by Councilmember Jackson, seconded by Councilmember Combs. This is to approve the substitute resolution that was passed out by legal counsel, along with a term to be inserted, in the clauses on the second page of the resolution that the contract be amended for a term of 90 days from the date of the execution of a contract.
He said 90 days. You said what, for the execution of a contract? Okay, that's good. That's good.
So can we get the contract signed?
Well, let me get the manager.
And this is just a point of clarification, and I don't know whether council wants to consider it. But it's my understanding, at a minimum, you wanted 90 days for the manager. Are you saying you want 90 days for both?
No, just the manager.
Just the manager. And I just wanted that to be clear, that it wasn't including the police.
Is that the way you understand it, Mr. Clerk, in the motion?
Certainly willing to do that.
Now, can I clarify, at the risk of causing great concern or consternation? Just because you've selected a candidate, many times, if they're in a contract, they may have to give 30 days notice by their contract, or in some cases 60 days notice, but most of the time 30 days notice minimum. Could be 15 days notice, but it could be a while before they actually start. So my suggestion is having interviews and making the decision on a final candidate within 90 days. They won't be starting within 90 days.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor. All in favor? 1, 2.
Say what now?
Motion on the floor.
Oh,
All in favor? 1, 2.
So it didn't
3. Those opposed is Baker. Willis, you voted what?
I'm opposing. You said
I'm calling your name.
Saying my name.
I'm calling you because you did oppose. Baker, Willis,
Clear.
So you're not voting?
Gums, and Khalid. That fails, for lack of vote. We went all that way to fail.
And watch what happens now.
Okay.
So
Ms.
we're
Clerk. Mr. Clerk, next item. Mr. Clerk.
There's just a debate over here among staff, Mr. Mayor and Council. We got 7 votes, and there was no one who abstained. So that previous vote was 3 yeas and 4 nays, so that failed.
Right.
The next item, Roman numeral 7, is a resolution of the City of South Fulton, Georgia, executing the cooperation agreement between the City of South Fulton and the Fulton Industrial Community Improvement District, and to provide an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-060.
Second. Properly moved, second, any discussion?
How about, don't forget about the.
Hearing none. What?
The expansion.
Oh.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-061 to expand the boundaries of the Fulton Industrial.
Not the boundaries.
No.
2 more businesses to join.
Oh, since there's no business. Correction. A motion to approve resolution 2017-061 to add 2 additional businesses into the Fulton Industrial CID.
The only clarification for that, it's not 6-1, that's the one we're going to hold, so this is 60.
Accepted.
I get a second.
Second.
Properly moved to second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor raise your hand. 1, 2. 1, 2. All those in favor raise your hand. 3.
Oh,
Okay, that fails for lack of 4 votes. The opposing of Mr. Baker. How many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold up.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, it's parliamentarian. It's 3-3, so you do.
Was it 3-3?
So you can break it down.
All I voted for.
Yes.
That's my first vote. All right, that passes. 4-3.
All right, the next item is under ordinances. We're holding Roman numeral 8 on that page. Continue on page 3. Under ordinances for second reading, this is the Open Records Officer ordinance. Sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem Rao under ordinance 2017-025.
Okay. Regarding this resolution. Okay, this resolution really speaks to the need to have one point of contact to respond to open records requests. As I previously indicated and our council, that we received quite a bit of open records requests, and to make sure that we can comply with state law and respond within a timely manner. This is what this resolution speaks to. And so I'll entertain the question from Councilwoman Jackson.
Me too.
And I guess my question is to the city manager, or I don't know, the CFO. The monies that we put in for the attorney, was there dedicated funds for open records? Or was it just a,
No, ma'am, it was really kind of based on hours, not listing functions.
okay, and they were saying that if the cost is like 200 and what per hour?
I don't remember what the actual cost was per hour, but that was the consideration. It was an overall number, not a number for open records and those sorts of things.
Okay, and I guess my question is, do you feel that it is going to take 2 dedicated individuals with the, because we're not getting a lot of open records?
We are.
Yes, we are.
Not for 2 dedicated staff.
Okay, let me see, I got different picture. I just thought we was gonna designate somebody, existing persons in the government to just get these things and get them over to them. So I'm not paying nobody nothing.
Because I saw something said director and assistant director is what I read.
No, I didn't see that.
Well, the compensation is in there, but
it's in there.
It's in there, but during the last time that we met, the city manager said that she would designate somebody to do it, and not because I questioned the 2 positions. But I know that the clerk does and the attorneys do something. From what I understand, it's customary for this activity to be part of the clerk's office.
But it's in there, it says director and assistant director.
Yeah, but when we get down to the end of it, it says, unless specifically specified elsewhere in this ordinance, the effective date of this ordinance shall be immediately. And so, I don't know how we're gonna do that immediately, with the exception of the fact that the clerk is already doing it, so maybe he might wanna have something to say as it relates to this.
Okay, I could offer just one side. I don't know exactly what the city manager has in mind, but I'm going to work with her in whatever way she'd like me to. But my understanding of the ordinance, and this is just something that all the state associations, both for cities and counties, do, they recommend that the cities and the counties identify a position within the organization. And it's not as much about a position as much as it is a title. It's just an additional title that they're calling the Open Records Officer, and then they have an Assistant Open Records Officer. And it can be named by, that name can be given to anyone.
Correct.
And so they're giving them these names so that the public knows who are they supposed to channel their open records requests to, and that individual will coordinate with the other departments within the organization to get the response done. So they're really acting like a liaison, not as much the person to do it from the beginning to the end.
For example, the city manager could name that our city clerk handles it, and our backup could be the deputy, which would be Jewel. Okay, that's all.
Yes,
I mean,
so-
that's why I didn't understand what positions.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Kamu, go ahead.
That makes sense.
And so just to be clear, until we appoint someone with this ordinance, anyone can contact anyone in our government and make an open record. Anyone with the City of South Fulton.gov email address can be demanded to have an open records request, and we are bound to comply. They can email any of the council people, anybody in HR, anybody with the City of South Fulton GA. Right now, anyone that gets that request is legally bound to.
Yes, 3 days. All right. I'm clear on what it is.
I'm clear now.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
No,
Go ahead.
compensation?
No compensation.
It's just a
She's just
title.
gonna add more stuff to y'all?
It's just title.
No, all he's gonna do is pull the file and send it to the daughter.
He gonna pull it and send it to me.
That's all he's gonna do.
Just for clear, this just is one central place for
Right.
these records to go. We've gotten open records requests come to city council people, to the, you name it. That kind of stops that. It's one person who's going
I'm
to make.
clear on
Okay,
if you're
okay.
doing that for me.
Okay,
I'm clear. I
for
was
whoever.
just concerned about already
That was additional fee.
additional.
No, no additional fee.
No, not additional fee, but the fact that it's additional work.
But somebody got to respond.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
This first reading?
It's first reading, okay. It's first reading.
Second reading.
It's second reading.
Well, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2017-025.
Second.
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Okay.
It does say compensation for the open records officer and his or her open records an assistant shall be initially recommended by the city manager and approved by the city council. So if we vote on it and approve it like that, then that means we gotta come up with some money, and then you gotta have 2 people, so we have to revise this.
So what do you want to amend? Do you want to strike that?
I want to strike it.
Okay.
Okay. I want to strike it, and then we can revisit it later on when we get to another place. You know what I'm saying?
The motion.
If we have to.
I don't think you have to.
Okay. So you're gonna strike it? Yeah. Okay.
All right. So you second?
Second.
Okay, you want to restate your motion with the, with those amendments too?
Because I summarized it.
And that's why I don't see where you're talking about, but.
The clerk does.
Do you?
Just tell the clerk what you want.
Yeah, to delete that section with the compensation and titles in it.
I just want to make sure, I want to know specifically where you're referring, because I don't want to be striking the public having to pay for the reproduction of these
It's
documents.
there, it's there.
It's there, I read
And I
it.
think it should be there.
It's
It
there.
is, it has the page, I just.
It should be there.
Compensation for them?
At least 10%.
No.
No,
Okay, we heard you.
it's not for marketing. You think you're paying marketing?
No, I'm saying
It's
like
going
when you
to
get,
them.
they have to gather this for the attorney, correct?
But trust me,
Email.
with Councilman Bacon, trust me, nobody gets paid on this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, well, go.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you locate it?
I don't know where she's referring.
Very first paragraph.
Section 1-7002, it's midway in that paragraph, it's on page 196. It starts with compensation and ends with amended, the word amended.
That's what you want to strike,
We can strike that sentence.
okay?
I'm okay with striking.
Okay? Probably moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? You not even, oh, yeah. Oh, that's unanimous, that passes. Burke.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of council, on page 4, you've got 2 additional ordinances, both of which are for first reading. The first item is an amendment to ordinance 2017-018, an ordinance to amend Title 8 of the City of South Fulton Code of Ordinances to add Section 8-1014, and this is regarding the duties and authority of police officers.
Any comments?
I did want to comment that I'm not sure if Judge Sellers is here, but if she would like to explain the purpose of this amendment.
Certainly. As it relates to the ordinance 2017-026, the police officers have to be sworn in our jurisdiction. We're using Fulton County police officers until the transition takes place. And so the police officers have to be sworn in our jurisdiction in order to book tickets in our jurisdiction. So it's a jurisdictional legal issue that we just need to make sure that there's an ordinance on the books allowing us to swear in the Fulton County police officers to be able to book tickets in our jurisdiction. If not, they will be booking tickets into Fulton County, which defeats the purpose, obviously, of the court. So this is a technical jurisdictional type of ordinance.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2.
Yeah, it's on first reading. The reason why we put it so quickly is, again, meeting the council's deadline of November 1st. This is a hoop that we have to jump. So the hope is that we read it first this time, and hopefully a second read we can pass it and we'll be good to go.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burke.
Yes, sir. The next item is sponsored by Council Members Willis and Mayor Pro Tem Rao. Also amending ordinance 2017-018, an ordinance to amend Title 8 of the City of South Fulton Code of Ordinances to add sections 8-1010 and 8-1011 regarding ATVs and off-road vehicles.
This is an ordinance to amend the rules of the road to include partial penalties for ATVs and off-the-road vehicles that has been plaguing our community. Really, we get a lot of activity throughout the summer through Walmart Park, also Roosevelt Highway and Old National Highway. So this models the legislation that Atlanta recently legislated. And for the first violation, the penalty will be for the amount of $750. The second violation, the penalty will be for the amount of $1,000. For the third violation, the penalty shall be a minimum of 30 days in jail, not to exceed 6 months. For all subsequent violations, the penalty should be minimum of 60 days in jail, not to exceed 6 months. So residents have been asking for stiffer penalties. We still will have to work on ways to catch the ATV riders, but when they are caught, they will have to face stiffer penalties in the City of South Fulton.
Any other discussion?
I have questions. All of those penalties are within OCGA guidelines of the maximum amounts that cities can impose?
Yes.
And then my second question is, I know that a lot of these ATV riders are juveniles, so how does that work?
I don't believe that being a juvenile has any impact, just as a 16-year-old driving a car.
So their age doesn't matter?
No.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Burke, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that takes you to the city manager's weekly update.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, very quickly, wanted to go through some of the highlights in the manager's report. Of course, you will find it in the agenda packet as it relates to the things that are taking place. I wanted to speak briefly to the transitioning of the departments. I meet every other Wednesday with parks, police, and fire to go over their transitions. Fire is at the point of beginning to put together and fill out their applications, just like with the state. Each one of them have completed a notebook like this of their transition, every action, everything that we need to have done. The police has a white one, fire has a red one, but that's how we track and keep in touch with all of the many things that need to take place. This is the fire's transition notebook, so that we can stay on top of those. Of course, we've mentioned all of the progress that we've made initially with the police department in receiving the post recognition as well as the ORI. The judge was also able to be successful in that particular area. So we are continuing to proceed with that. As it relates to Parks and Recs, the HR department is beginning their process to meet with them and have them fill out the applications for those individuals that want to come over. In January, we were planning it for December, but we moved it to January, so we decided not to totally stop the process, but to continue to be moving forward with moving over parks. As we begin to get closer to that particular time, we'll start working on some of the other issues that will be tied to the name, as well as what we actually end up using for a logo, or if we're going to do something a little different than that. The current dates are established for parks to come over on January 8th. They asked me not to make it January 1st, so we agreed that the next week for that. February the 26th for fire and March 26th for parks. We still need to have the discussion.
Did you mean police?
Police, I'm sorry, thank you. January 8th, Parks and Recreation. February 26th, Fire Rescue. And March 26th, Police. So we will continue to be proceeding with those areas as we begin to move forward. We've been working, IT has been working with parks so that we can make sure that we can get those issues addressed. Because we had additional time, we just kept moving and trying to make those things happen for the Parks Department. Realizing that once a name is selected for the city, then it'll be full steam ahead in designing badges and all the other patches and everything else that needs to take place. There's some tentative drafts for the badge and the patch. All we need to do is fill in a name, and then they would be ready to go as it relates to ordering that. We will continue to work with the judge as it relates to the courts and getting that up and running. The decision as it relates to where we will hold court is very important, because it has to be on the citation that a person receives. They have to know where they're to show up for court. And so once we get that decision made, then we can go ahead and print the citation books and begin to start working so that they can be issuing the tickets, as Judge Sellers mentioned, under our jurisdiction, using our citation books as we begin to proceed with that.
Question, do you anticipate that that agreement relative to the courts will be before the city council at our next meeting?
I am hopeful that it will be, and we're going to try our best to get that to you before then. As it relates to where we are in the report, it also shows the individuals that have applied for the closed positions that we have advertised. The one that was omitted from the list is the municipal court administrator. That position is closed, and there were 175 applications for that position. So, HR, pardon? Yes.
How did y'all get 476 applications for the clerk of municipal?
Just because people apply, that don't mean they qualified. So some people just apply for everything that's out there, and no matter what it is, they just apply. So they think they can be a clerk.
Okay.
Without realizing it's not kind of the clerk they're probably thinking about.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions about your report, City Manager. I see item number 12, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Hilliard and I saw it together. Have we made an agreement on an ambulance service? And if we haven't, in the absence of an agreement, what happens?
Currently, ambulance service is something that's coordinated through the county for North, Central, and all of that. So we have attempted to try to have AMR, as well as the state individual. Mark is aware, Region 3 director for the state for this area, to come and speak with us, but currently that is handled under our interlocal agreement with the county.
So if by February 26th we transfer fire rescue over, if we haven't met with AMR or established anything, would everything basically remain the same and they would still come out on call?
Yes. It remains the same because they're dispatched from the same grade. Yes,
through November of 2018?
You can even continue that particular service contract long after this. They can.
And so my next question is, I saw the number of city manager applicants was blank. I'm just wondering, as of 10/5, how many do we have now?
106.
106. And then lastly, I'm going to say this again because I said in the work session, but we are transferring our 3 most visible departments over in the next 90 days, the fire, police, and parks. And it's really about 40 days when you take out holidays and weekends. And according to this meeting schedule that we just approved, we have like 4 meetings to figure out how much it actually costs. And so I would request that in our next city manager's report, we could have actual quotes and figures. Like, I'm not even sure that we can afford this rebranding this year one time, let alone twice. But I would like in the next city manager's report just to see who we're considering, who we're considering switching out decals, who we are considering buying uniforms from, and secondly, what the cost would be per department. So like what is, for Parks and Rec, which I think has, I don't see Mr. Phillips in here, I think they have like 51 vehicles. What is that going to cost? To outfit all and uniform all of those people, what is that going to cost? Just so we can just have a sense of what it actually costs to do this rebranding per department, as we do with the next 3 departments. And then where, I know we have budget hearings, and I'm not sure, maybe you can help me out, I'm not sure that we actually had like rebranding as a line item in the budget. So however much it costs, where does that money come from?
Yes, sir, I hear you. I will say that any numbers are approximate and estimates, because until you know the length of the name, I don't know how big the seal is on the side of the car, and until it's designed, you don't know. And because it's a wrap, some of them go, like code enforcement went all the way around that vehicle, whereby Parks may just have something on the side. So as much as we possibly can, we'll give you an estimate, knowing that it will not be the exact figure. The uniforms, they have a contract with a uniform company, and almost all of them use the exact same uniform company. So we will be able to do that. Where the money is coming from, out of the departmental budget.
Because I mean, just to like, sort of underline it, I know the mayor, he was saying in the work session that we might have not managed our time wisely in that. So I don't want to get to like December and find out like, oh, it's going to cost $100,000 to do X, Y, Z. You know, want to know that before then. We got 4 meetings to figure it out. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I would ask that in future city managers report that we have a section added that speaks to procurement. I know over the last couple of meetings we've had things like city record. As we were adopted, they've addressed it certain positions. update on sanitation, those kind of procurements that they stay in front of us.
Yep. Now, I will highlight the one for solid waste that's off in here. We've held two meetings, and it's under the finance section for procurement. We've had meetings with Anthony Spencer, who runs the program for the Fulton County, as well as Attorney Ward, who worked for the City of Atlanta, and looking at what are some of the things we need to be cautious about when it comes to solid waste and getting that done. We should be able to get that proposal on the street. We want to have the final draft to the lawyers no later than Thursday of this week. We're shooting to have it out on the 18th of October. That's our target date. And then it's out for, in fact, she was ready with a slide to show you the timetable, but you didn't ask her when she was up there. So time is passing, and we'll go ahead with that. But we will send you the proposed timetable, using that as our 18th as our date of releasing that solicitation.
They racing to see who the mayor is. Okay. I'm going to ask you this question: are my smaller providers included?
Everyone is going to be included. It is important that we make sure that our local and small businesses are treated fairly in this process.
Okay. Councilwoman Willis.
I submitted the sanitation and recycling ordinance to legal. And I'll be meeting with Teresa tomorrow for your permission to work through the details of the sanitation and recycling ordinance and the purchasing ordinance. My question is, do you think we will be able to have the first read, this is the legal, by the next council meeting, that we get it to you by the end of this week?
That's a big
Well, I'm saying, will it be back from legal, and then, Mayor, will you approve for it to go on the agenda for the first read? Will you be able to have it back from out of legal, so that the mayor can consider approving it to go on the agenda for the first read by the next council meeting?
I believe Brian is working with you on that one, but let me circle back up, but we will work as expeditiously as possible to get it back to you so it can be submitted to the mayor for his consideration to be placed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I think purchasing, sets the tone for how we move forward as a city. I would love to see that in a work session, kind of as we did the city of ethics. I think it's very important.
Is that purchasing?
The purchasing
Policy. Yeah, you need to walk through every bit of that policy in order to do that. And lastly, if there are no more questions about the report, I would like to ask the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Malazzi, to come and give you an update. If you recall, at his last meeting, he asked about the getting a TAN and what the cash flows were like. He has done some initial research, and so that we can begin to proceed with that, I will ask him to go now.
There is through Mr. Malazzi. I believe you can.
Yep.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. As the manager said last month, the 26th of September, I came to you to seek for approval to allow me to go and seek for the TAN. We have cash flow. The cash flow came because we did not bill, or the bills, tax bills didn't go out as they do in most of the years. They go out August, and we start receiving our corrections at mid of October. As I'm talking today, the tax bills have not yet gone. They'll go mid of October and will not start receiving tax correction until the 15th of December. Hence, we need to find money to make us pay the bills that we have. So what I'll go through here is something that I already sent to you, something that you are familiar. You got this one, each one of you got this one, and this is what I presented on the 26th, just to remind you. And here is what we pay. This is what we have to pay to settle Fulton County. September the 15th, we had to pay that, and by September the 30th, we had to pay $7.7 million, and the balance of that will be paid end of December. We do not have that money because tax money has not yet been collected. And this is just a description of how do we pay from May, June, July, and you will see the payment that we are going to make in October, November, and December. Then you authorize me to go and start applying, which I have done. And several banks we have contacted, several banks have given out how much they can lend us money. We are seeking for $10 million to help us to meet the obligations by December 31st. So this is the summary of the banks and financial entities that I have gone to. Because of time frame, some of them that don't have information as I'm speaking to you today, but I'll give it to you what I've received so far. We have the first one, IF Securities. They are willing to lend us, to give us money, about $10 million, with rates between 2 to 2.25%. And that will be tax exempt. If it will not be tax exempt, which will be taxable, they will lend us at 3%. And the second one is Iberia Bank. Tax exempt, it will be 2.27. And if it's taxable, it will be 3.3%. BB&T Bank, they have got the information, they have not yet put things together. I tried to get just percentages, they could not. So from the time I was leaving office, 4 o'clock, I had not yet received anything. Fidelity Bank, what they have said for them, it may take even more than most of these banks because they will not do without getting RFP. So them, we can't discuss with them until it's a comprehensive services we are providing them. SunTrust, I may get some information from them, maybe tomorrow, but at the time I was leaving office, I had not yet received. Now my request would be whether it will be what we have here, or I'm going to get something that will be cheaper. Request is to authorize me to go ahead and negotiate or proceed with whatever we have so that by the 24th, we can give you the details because we will need this money before the end of this month. You had a question here.
Given the interest rates that we have, do you anticipate that you're going to really get anything any lower? And my second question is, and I raised this at the last meeting, what are we going to be looking at in terms of satisfying the TAN? I know Iberia Bank has a 12/31/2017 repayment.
So we have the first one there is in Georgia. Georgia, you are required, you cannot have a TAN beyond 31st December. Right. So with the two of these banks that I have talked to, we pay up to 31st December. Immediately they will refinance us from January 1, which we are likely to need some money. And that money will not be due until 31st of December 2018. So whatever we get January 1, will be due December 31, 2018. But whatever we are getting now has to be paid by December 31st.
So just for clarity, the fact that this loan, this line of credit is paying, you wouldn't draw on it till after January.
This one will have to be drawn now because we don't have means to pay our obligations.
Okay.
Because we will not have inflows until the 15th of December. And we don't have enough money to pay our obligation before December 15, when our inflows will start coming in.
Right. And I just misunderstood because I thought you said that those obligations didn't have to be satisfied to December 31st, 2018.
It has to be, but we have still to pay every 15th of the month. We have to pay the 15th of November. We have to pay the 15th of December. Then we have to pay everything by December 31st.
I mean, I get that. I'm trying to understand how we compliant.
Yes, we are. If we get the time, yes, we will be able to comply. So far, we haven't missed anything.
I think, I'm sorry. I think, I said before, you know, we don't have a money problem, we have a cash flow problem.
Correct.
And you could have probably cut this conversation in half, you know, because there is a need, and I don't think, like the program said, I don't think it'll get interest rate much lower than what you already got.
I just don't want to close, but as she said, there is 100 that will get lower than
I
this.
understand, but you want this process to go forward because we need to borrow the money to keep us going until we start. You know, I mean, we really are late on tax bills.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean, we are considerably late. We should have money by now. Right, so this is a necessary attempt to make sure that we can miss step up till we get there.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Can I make a motion to go with IFS Securities?
You can.
For the 10?
I second. Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Passes.
That ends the manager's report.
And if it's all right with the council, can we omit the mayor and council comments and go to executive session?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll take a motion.
Motion to omit the council members' comments to go into executive session to discuss personnel. And we also need our HR director. We have some questions for the paying class.
Is
Is
HR
that okay?
director, excuse me, the HR director, is that okay with everybody? You can have the HR director in the executive session.
I mean, for the paying class, what it is.
For the paying class, yes. Okay, can I get a second? We move to second, then we go into executive session. All in favor?
There was action taken during the executive session by unanimous vote to pay the municipal court chief judge at a rate of $92,000 through December 2017 and $78,000 annually thereafter.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Vote.
All in favor?
Aye.